Right now, a $9 billion shadow fleet of ghost ships is operating out in the open ocean, defying U.S. sanctions to fund Iran's military operations. For years, the United States has relied on economic sanctions and naval blockades to choke off Iran's maritime trade, aiming to restrict their access to global capital. But Iran found a physical loophole. Anticipating the current blockades, they managed to load 90 million barrels of crude oil onto a decentralized network of about 1,500 aging, deteriorating ships. That fleet is currently keeping the Iranian economy afloat, running a hidden supply chain backed by buyers in China. This creates a friction between paper sanctions and a physical maritime operation that is moving millions of barrels beyond the reach of traditional oversight. To understand how this works, we have to start at the loading docks. Iran pumps millions of barrels of oil directly into these feeder ships at major export terminals like Karg Island. Loading this much crude onto ships at the end of their lifespan is dangerous. The deteriorating hulls pose a constant threat of a massive oil spill. Once loaded, these feeder ships travel down to a nautical no-man's land. They park in the eastern outer port limits, right in the Strait of Singapore, just off the coast of Malaysia. Here, the crews execute their first evasion tactic. They paint over their ship's unique identification numbers and swap out the national flags flying on their masts. Next, they cut the digital cord. The crews disable their automatic identification system, the transponders used to track vessels globally, vanishing from digital maritime maps. By exploiting these neutral international waters while digitally invisible, they create a jurisdictional blind spot where global maritime authorities cannot legally intervene. Under this cover of anonymity, they execute the ship-to-ship transfer. A new Asian-owned vessel arrives and pulls directly alongside the hidden Iranian feeder ship. Analysts identify these meetings by tracking stationary Iranian green ships locking on to incoming red ships. Once side by side, hoses pump crude out of the aging Iranian vessel into the Asian carrier. Then comes the laundering. Falsified documents relabel the cargo as a Malaysian source. This chart shows China's self-reported oil imports from Iran over 4 months. According to international logs, that number is absolute zero. But imports from Malaysia over those same months spike to 126 million barrels, far exceeding Malaysia's actual production capacity. These physical cargo swaps effectively turn the open ocean into a $9 billion money laundering scheme. The relabeled ships sail to China, where they offload the crude to independent, privately run facilities known as teapot refineries. This is where the financial loophole closes. China pays for the oil using Chinese currency, bypassing the US dollar entirely. By keeping these transactions out of the international banking system, the payments stay invisible to Western financial regulators. The US Treasury Department is trying to adapt. They recently issued a list of sanctions targeting the individual vessels identified in this dark fleet. But enforcement hits a geographical wall. Because Malaysia maintains a neutral foreign policy, the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard have no legal jurisdiction to police those specific transfer waters. And because Iran loaded those 90 million barrels into the feeder ships before the blockade took effect, their funding pipeline will remain operational for months to come. As long as sovereign nations are willing to operate outside the U.S. dollar, unilateral sanctions will struggle to contain physical trade networks. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe and let us know what global trade network we should investigate next in the comments below.